All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome back for another deep dive with us.
Always a pleasure to be here.
So today we're taking a look at a situation that honestly had us all kind of holding our breath for a while there. Moi University in Kenya.
Yeah, not exactly the kind of headlines you want to see about a place of learning, right?
Right, like for months, it was all just doom and gloom, money problems, lecturers walking out, even talk of like straight up embezzlement. I mean, was this a university on the brink?
Well, the articles from Nairobi Leo, they don't sugarcoat it. I mean, they were calling it out, saying Moy was in the news for all the nasty reasons. Students were complaining about empty lecture halls.
Yeah, sounds like a full-blown crisis. And this wasn't
Yeah.
just about Moi either, right? This kind of points to bigger issues with how universities in Kenya are funded.
Absolutely. This was like the canary in the coal mine. The government just hasn't been keeping up, costs are rising, and something had to give.
Okay, so you've got this background of financial strain, and then, bam, the accusations hit. The Vice Chancellor, Professor Isaac Kosgei, accused of embezzling, what was it, billions of shillings?
Yeah, 2.2 billion to be exact. Not exactly small change. When those numbers get thrown around, it erodes trust, right? It's not just about the money, it's about the integrity of the whole institution.
Makes sense. So at this point, it's looking pretty dire for Moi. But then things start to change. The government steps in, right?
Right, the Education Cabinet Secretary, Julius Ogamba, he really takes charge, calls a meeting with all the stakeholders, tries to get everyone on the same page.
So this is like unions, university administration, everyone's got to be at this table, and they come up with this, what was it called, the return to work formula?
Exactly. And it wasn't just, okay, everyone go back to class. This formula actually addressed some of the lecturers' long-standing issues, stuff like promotions that were stalled, allowances that weren't paid. They were trying to solve the root problems, not just put a Band-Aid on things.
And this is where President Ruto really gets involved, right? It wasn't just some bureaucratic fix. He personally addressed it, even in his State of the Nation address. Like, this was a priority for him.
Oh, absolutely. And he didn't stop at just getting Moi back on track. He announced a whole new model for funding universities in Kenya.
Right, so not just a bailout, a system revamp.
Exactly. And this new model, it's kind of a game changer. Instead of just relying on government handouts, which clearly weren't enough, it ties funding to performance. Universities have to compete based on graduation rates, research output, stuff like that.
So it's all about incentivizing them to be more efficient, more innovative, right?
Exactly. Like, hey, you want to get more money, you got to prove you're actually delivering results.
Interesting. So is that it then? Problem solved, Moi's back on track, everyone's happy.
Well, if only it were that simple, right? I mean, the strike's over, they've got this new funding model, but there are still a lot of loose
Like
ends.
what? Give me the details. What are we still worried about?
Well, that embezzlement investigation, that's still ongoing. That cloud's going to hang over Moy until that's resolved one way or another. And even with this new model, it's not a magic bullet. Kenyan universities have deep financial problems. It'll take time to see if this is really enough.
Right, and there's that whole trust thing we talked about
Yeah.
between the faculty and the administration, the university and the government, and most importantly with the students. Like, how do you rebuild that after all this?
Absolutely. So in a way, Moy's become this kind of test case, right?
If they can pull this off, it could be a model for other universities.
Right, but if they fail, well, that sends a pretty chilling message, doesn't it?
Definitely. So high stakes all around. I guess we'll be keeping an eye on Moy. But for our listeners out there, I mean, this whole situation, it begs the question, what can we learn from this? What does this say about higher education, not just in Kenya, but globally? This is something worth thinking about, something worth discussing. So yeah, keep the conversation going, folks, and we'll see you on the next deep dive.
Until then,